Do I look all right?
Yeah.
You have your script?
Yes.
Hey, Amy, would you like to talk about fluoro-free ski waxing?
Oh, yes. Yes, I would.
Excellent. I also would like to discuss fluoro-free ski waxing, and in particular, how to be sure we're all compliant with regulations.
Sounds like you're reading off the script.
And you're not. What's your line?
What regulations are you talking about?
Aha. So, FIS has announced and confirmed that all FIS competitions starting this year will be fluoro-free. IBU has also jumped on the bandwagon. So has USSA and Nordique Canada, which is what Cross Country Canada is now called. So all North American sanctioned racing will be fluoro-free, including American Birkebeiner. But what's unclear is a whole bunch of citizen races and marathons that aren't operating under the umbrella of an organization. So yeah, lots of fluoro-free racing.
So this is happening from the top down?
Top down, FIS down, yeah.
So World Cups?
World Cups, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. It's your line, you're supposed to.
And how is that all supposed to work out? How are they enforcing this?
Yeah, so FIS and IBU have been working in partnership with a couple of instrumentation organizations, companies, whatever, Compass and what is it called? I wrote it down, Fraunhofer, to develop a fluorine tracker, something tracker. It's an instrument that ostensibly takes an optical scan of the ski base and assesses the presence of fluoro to within established threshold values and provides an immediate green light or red light. Either yes, you start, or no, you do not start. You have too much fluoro on these skis.
And we're going to see these machines at the Bill Koch Festival and Eastern Cups?
Sure won't. There's only going to be like less than a dozen of them in the world this winter, and they're all going to FIS and IBU. So no, they won't be available to the broader racing market until the spring of 2021.
So it sounds like it's just going to be clear on the World Cup.
Clear-ish, yeah. So there's supposed to have been a testing campaign, an opportunity that was scheduled for September 23rd and 24th for all the national teams and the industry suppliers, the SRS, the wax companies, to come to the headquarters where the machine is being developed and test their procedures against the machine and the established threshold limits. This is how, like, national teams are supposed to figure out how to clean their skis in order to be compliant within the limits. And to be clear, the concept is to have a threshold limit that's not zero, so that you don't automatically exclude any old product, skis that have been previously waxed with fluoros or whole wax trucks that have, fluoro residue in them. So they're trying to establish those threshold limits and then gradually bring them closer and closer to zero.
Okay, so what does that mean for us and our customers? And
well,
things like that?
It doesn't mean anything for us. In the European press, things are going a little crazy right now because they just announced on Friday that their initial testing isn't satisfactory and they're postponing the test campaign until some date in October that they haven't announced yet. So that's a little chaotic. I think people are really starting to lose their minds. I spoke with Davida from Star the other day, and he said as soon as that announcement came out, he had like 10 calls from national teams like, what do we do? People are a little concerned because they don't know how to prepare for the season, and it's going to be a very, very tight time frame to get hundreds and hundreds of pairs of skis ready. For us,
what's happening in the U.S.? Is there any testing in the U.S. this year?
It's a good question. We're not going to see this Fluoro Tracker. I assume we're not, because of the limited numbers. According to the USSA working group, there's one group working actually between USSA and Nordique Canada to try to come up with a deal. They're trying to get the test strips that have been used in Scandinavia. I think they're called Ski FT test strips. And now this is something that takes a sample from your base and you send off to a laboratory. So in practice, this would mean that it would function more like a positive doping finding, in that someone would have to retroactively be disqualified as opposed to denied the start. Makes sense?
Yeah.
But the problem with this is that, as far as I know, there hasn't been any ability to test the ski FT strips against the threshold values, which haven't even been established or announced for the Fluoro Tracker. Nor do I know whether the sensitivity of that test method does anything aside from give you a positive or a negative. I mean, if it's like a home pregnancy test and it's not going to tell you how pregnant you are, just whether you're pregnant, which is good enough for a pregnancy test. But for a fluoro test, might actually not be that helpful. When they used these strips at Norwegian junior races for the first time, they did like 88 samples and 44 came back positive, although nobody felt that half the field was cheating. It was all contamination. So it could make it really difficult to rely on those. So it's really unclear what we're going to face in terms of testing. It's really unclear in light of COVID schedule modifications whether we'll see any testing.
So what do we do?
Well, it's a really good question. Basically, we need to try to be compliant with the rules, at least in spirit, and understand that this is going to be a lot like anti-doping. We don't blood dope, and we shouldn't use fluoros. Back in August, FIS and IBU released a set of recommendations for bringing your skis into compliance. Those included instructions to hot scrape your skis over 10 times.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean, people will be destroying skis. I can make a whole different video on why you shouldn't hot scrape your skis 10 times in a row. Basically, it's a poorly put together set of instructions on how to be compliant. Not very useful.
Are we going to end up grinding a ton of skis then?
Good question. So grinding takes the top surface of the base away, and we can certainly target removing enough material to get below the depth of penetration of paraffin. So we should functionally be able to remove all the fluoro from the base with grinding if we're aggressive. However, I don't think that's the right reason to grind your skis. Now, there are very good reasons to grind your skis for performance. Absent fluoros, the specifics of the grind and the camber are known to be very much more important. So having good bases and an appropriate grind is going to be pretty critical. But functionally, I don't think that we need to be grinding skis in order to be fluoro compliant because we're not getting tested anyway. I think what we need to do is to make sure people are complying with the spirit of the rules.
And so what are people supposed to do?
Wax a couple times with fluoro-free wax. Plan to wax only with fluoro-free wax. Plan not to cheat. Start training on your skis and re-wax them with fluoro-free wax. By the time you get to the first race, there's no question that you're not going to have a fluoro advantage if you've only been waxing with fluoro-free wax and you've got several layers in. So you're not going to be at an advantage, and no one's going to care, and you're not going to get tested. And probably the races will be pretty informal, at least at the start anyway. By the time we get to any possibility of testing later in the season, I think people who have simply adopted fluoro-free waxes will be in great shape. And in the meantime, no one's going to have any cause to point fingers unless people show up with an egregious fluoro advantage because they've been really trying to game the system.
So what are we going to do? What should people do about their tools, their irons, their ski bags, their ski rooms?
Yeah. Clean up. I mean, I think FIS also has, pardon me, I have a dry hacking cough. FIS also has recommendations there. I have different recommendations. I would say the iron, if your iron's all burned, brown, old, cruddy wax, take some sandpaper, 150 grit sandpaper, and sand until you get to clean aluminum. And then wipe it clean, take some fluoro-free wax, melt it on the hot iron, and wipe that off, and you'll have a nice clean iron without fluoro. Try to get all the old, cruddy, drippy, nasty stuff away. That should be no problem. That should not introduce fluoro material to your skis. Brushes, they're trickier. They tend to collect a bunch of little dry particulate. The FIS recommendation is to dip them in wax remover, which dissolves the wax, But the way wax remover works on a ski is it dissolves the wax and then you wipe it off while it's still wet, and the dissolved wax goes away with it, and then it dries quickly or slowly. If you just dip them a brush and then let it dry, all the wax is still there and now it's a gummy mess. Don't dip your brushes in wax remover. That would be dumb. Just use a vacuum cleaner or compressed air or some combination of the two. Start using the brushes with fluoro-free wax and clean them frequently, and it should be fine. If you absolutely need to be sure that you've got clean brushes for race day, final prep, and you're concerned about the possibility of testing, you probably want to get some new brushes for that purpose. Any kind of like roto stuff, like applicators, corks, felts, fleeces, you're gonna have to start over. They just carry too much material and cleaning them is impractical. So if you've been using a felt roller and you want to continue to use felt rollers and be fluoro free, you need new felt rollers.
So overall, not a huge deal.
No, I think as long as everyone abides by the spirit of the rules, it's going to be fine. We've already got really good indication from Masters Nationals at Craftsbury last season. We waxed a bunch of skis for the skate race, and I followed up with a whole bunch of customers. They were racing in different packs throughout this race, many different age groups, and often toward the front of the group where you'd expect to see really fast skis. And they all felt like they had really fast skis. We waxed, it was the Star Next medium and the Next liquid with Roto Fleece application. And everyone felt like their skis were awesome, and they didn't notably see anyone that they felt had a big advantage over the field, certainly compared to them. And it was absolutely conditions where a pure fluoro job would have made a really big difference.
So maybe fluoro free will have better, fair racing?
No.
No.
No, definitely not. Well, especially not for people who are trying to use like old CH level wax. Even though it was only really the first year we were looking at specific fluoro-free race wax last year, the advances were already so big that the traditional CH level waxes were not competitive. The new stuff's better. We've got a lot of stories to tell about that. I think people will have to update their wax boxes, and we're prepared to work with them on that. But the other thing is that, as I mentioned, the specifics of your grind and camber become that much more important. And people who invest in skis for more specific conditions and target those picks well are going to be at a big advantage. You have one more line. I wrote it for you.
Excellent.
You're not going to do it?
You can do it. That's scary.
Yeah. Anyway, you think that's enough?
Yeah, that's good.